Much of the story is updated in the booklet which you've received in your handouts as part of this convention, a booklet which celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Diocese of West Tennessee. Of course, our story, I think, probably begins somewhat earlier. We can remember, for example, that the Diocese of West Tennessee, or Diocese of Tennessee, was established in 1829. And in the early days, churches flourished, particularly in the western part of the state, where they served plantations and the owners and slaves who lived on those plantations. Over time, the physical size of the Diocese of Tennessee presented pastoral challenges that led eventually to the creation of 3 separate dioceses, including, of course, the Diocese of West Tennessee, incorporated in 1982. And our diocese is, just so you know, in terms of total number of members, our diocese is one of the smallest in the Episcopal Church. Well, that's where we come from, at least in brief. But there is much more to our snapshot, more information that the Strategic Visioning Team has been gathering and considering. For example, let me give you some numbers to consider. As of the most recently reported data from the 2008 parochial reports, as they are known, our 32 parish and mission churches reported a total membership of just over 8,600. Now, reported membership, that's always a bit of an iffy number. Anybody who's had to work on these reports will tell you if they're honest. A more reliable number, perhaps, is who's showing up on a Sunday. On an average Sunday over the course of a year, 3,540 Episcopalians worship in our 32 parishes and missions. That number, of course, is ever-changing. Unfortunately, it's not been changing in a good direction. Other than a brief rise in 1999 and 2000, average Sunday attendance has been steadily declining over the last decade, dropping from a high of almost 4,600 in 2000 to a most recently reported figure of the 3,540. This represents a drop in attendance of some 20% over the last 10 years. This is a somewhat greater figure than the 16% drop seen in the Episcopal Church at large. Well, as our team developed a snapshot of our diocese, we also focused on our local ministries and where they are found. Remembering our history and where the church got its first growth within Tennessee, we understand and we see that most of our 32 churches are found in the Memphis area. Outside of Shelby County, we find 4 churches in Tipton County, 2 in Fayette. You'll notice, however, that some counties have no permanent Episcopal presence at all at this time. As we've already heard earlier today, not all ministries enfold in churches, of course. Our diocese supports and is blessed by the work of the St. Columba Center and the Emmanuel Episcopal Center in Memphis. We've been actively involved, of course, in ministry in Haiti for years, especially now in the aftermath of the deadly earthquake of January 12th. There are a number of local ministries in which various churches participate or whose creation was possible because of Episcopal Church involvement, including those pictured here. We're also involved in ministries beyond our borders, including United Thank Offering, EFM, Episcopal Relief and Development, DeVos Conference Center. Closer to home, we have our Episcopal schools, such as St. Mary's and Grace St. Luke's. We have an active diocesan youth council, as well as campus ministries that include Rhodes College and UT Martin. And we do all this on a fairly modest budget. If we look at dioceses which reported operating income to the Episcopal Church, and the latest figures I could access were from 2006, so they're a little stale, and not every diocese reports, but most do. But looking at those figures, we see that West Tennessee reported about $1.3 million in operating income, very similar to the operating income reported by the Diocese of Tennessee, and a little less than what was reported by East Tennessee. That stands somewhat less than the median reported income of about $1.6 million, and certainly less than the $2 million average operating income reported by dioceses. We also looked, as part of our work so far, at who we are as congregations and clergy. We gathered some demographic data. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time here in the land of charts and tables, but there are a few things worth noting. Almost 70% of our parishes and missions are served by a priest, about 10% by a deacon. Nearly a quarter have no regular pastoral leadership and must rely on supply clergy. We mentioned that the best measure of a church's size is probably ASA, or average Sunday attendance. And according to recent figures, 7 of our congregations average more than 200 people on a Sunday, 5 between 100 and 199, 7 between 40 and 99, and 12 of our 32 congregations have less than 40 people attending on an average Sunday. We surveyed the parishes and missions and learned that, based on their own descriptions of themselves, that over 80% of our parishes and missions identify their congregations as being exclusively, or very nearly exclusively, white, meaning that less than 20% of our congregations are either exclusively black or include a mix. This compares to about 80% of Episcopal churches at large who consider themselves to be exclusively or nearly exclusively white. We have 65 clergy currently serving in West Tennessee. 54, or about 83% of us, are priests. Most of our clergy are active or are licensed here. Licensed meaning, quite simply, that the clergy person may be technically under the authority of a bishop elsewhere. They are licensed to carry out their ordained ministry here among us. Notably, of these clergy, only 12 are retired. Retired clergy, and this is important because retired clergy often remain active for many years, serving as assistants in larger parishes or filling in as needed throughout the diocese. Not all of the 12, by the way, actually live in West Tennessee. How old are we as we look at the clergy? Well, we don't have ages for all of our clergy. I guess some of us are 29. But looking at those whose ages are known, we see we have no clergy persons under the age of 30, while nearly half of our clergy are 60 or older. 83% of our priests are men. Only one church in West Tennessee has a woman currently serving as rector. By contrast, nearly three-quarters of our vocational or permanent deacons are women. We will close in on the last section of my presentation, and that has to do with diocesan leadership. So let's talk briefly about the talented, the dedicated, and faithful leadership of our diocese. Now, during the course of convention, you will have met our diocesan leaders. But the paid clergy and staff don't do all the work of this diocese. We have 24 various ministries that are tasked with all sorts of administrative and missional responsibilities, the work that keeps the diocese running day to day and year to year. As the bishop pointed out earlier, this convention is one of those very important ministries. Other ministries include those listed on the screen. The people who serve because they were elected at convention or they were appointed by our bishop. But they don't do all the work either. There is one more group, the most important group, perhaps. If you ask the question, what is the ministry of the laity? The prayer book towards the back in the catechism provides this answer. The ministry of laypersons, the prayer book tells us, is to represent Christ in his church, to bear witness to him wherever they may be, and according to the gifts given them, carry on Christ's work of reconciliation in the world. And here you see I've highlighted the final responsibility: to take their place in the life, worship, and governance of the church. In other words, the real leaders of the diocese, well, that's you. We all share a call to love and serve our Lord, and to love and serve our neighbors wherever we find them. And the greatest part of that love and service comes, of course, from the many people of this diocese. And it is your vision, your dreams, your hopes, your call to mission and ministry that need to provide the direction and vision for our diocese as we consider who we are and who we will be. We started our work by examining who we are as a people of the Diocese of West Tennessee. And all this, as I said earlier, is a prelude to answering the real question, who will we be? So now we turn to you. What is our next chapter as the Diocese of West Tennessee? What snapshot will be taken of us in days and years to come?